As full-time RVers, how do we stay connected when we're on the road? Hi, this is Jim from RV4x40.com. Welcome to the channel today. We're going to go into some level of detail about the way we stay connected to the internet while we're on the road, and some things we've done internal to the RV to be able to have good connectivity and good data storage, and how that all hooks together. This is not going to go into the details of the installation itself, but I'm going to cover the block diagram of the system and tell you about the major components that go into it. Our goal is to have storage that's online and that we can access remotely from the RV if we need to. And it also gives us ample storage for a lot of video and photography files that we keep and like to have available to us, rather than having to swap out individual hard drives with various projects and keep track of those hard drives. So we've gone to a system which includes a network attached storage, and we'll show you how that works and give you some details about the hardware we use. Many of these devices are not the latest in technology. We've built the system over the last 2 to 3 years, and so we're not necessarily having the latest of the technology devices available, but these are the ones we use. And we'll put some links in the description down below so you can check out the vendors and different places to buy things. There are 2 resources on the web that I find indispensable. Both of them help me put the system together, and I would recommend, if you have questions, that you check out one or both of these sites. The first one is Eric and Kayla, and their personal website is liveandlight.net. That's living without the G.net, and you can find their story there. And then they have a store front which you can find information about all of these products, and you can talk to them and they will give you recommendations based upon your specific situation. Their storefront is mobilemusthave.com. It's mobilemusthave.com. I'll put a link to that site down in the description below. The other one, which is a more general type of website with a lot of information about data plans for both cellular data as well as for voice and text. And they are very, very good at what they do, and that is Cherie and Chris. And they have put together a lot of information, some of which is publicly available at no charge. They also have a subscription you can sign up for, which gives you access to a lot more detail and a lot more information about it. Recommend them to you as well. That site is rvmobileinternet.com. Again, I'll put links to both of these down below, and I can highly recommend both of these websites for good information and current information about what the state of the art is and what you can do with various technology pieces. The first thing to cover is the cellular data modem that we use. I know a lot of folks use their cell phone as a hotspot or just use a true hotspot. This is a little more sophisticated device in that it has inputs for 2 different antennas. We'll cover that in a minute. And it's from a company called PepWave. It's their Max BR1 Mini. And it is designed for use in mobile applications. And the key here is that it has 2 different SIM cards. It can only connect to one cellular provider at a time, but I can switch back and forth, in our case, between AT&T and Verizon. Those are the 2 carriers that we have. So when we get to a new location, I can go into the system and check the signal strength and the data speeds between those 2 carriers and pick the one which gives me the best service. That gives us a choice between 2 different carriers, and we have 2 different data plans. The specifics of the plans aren't important because neither one of them is currently available for new subscriptions, But we do have those and have had them for some time, and they are both unlimited data, and the cost on that between the two carriers is relatively low. So it gives us options, gives us redundancy, and it's worked out quite well for us. Without an antenna, of course, any Wi-Fi or radio type device is useless. So in our case, we have a pointing 5-in-1 antenna mounted on the roof. The 5-in-1 because there are actually 5 different antennas inside of the housing. 2 of them are used for LTE data. 2 of them can be used for local Wi-Fi. And the last one is a GPS antenna. So all of those come into one cable set that comes down into the motorhome. The Max Mini has the ability to use 2 of those antennas at one time. It's called MIMO or MIMO for multiple input, multiple output. Having the 2 antennas makes your connection to the LTE system much more reliable. 2 more of the antennas are for campground Wi-Fi, and the Mini also has the ability to take a Wi-Fi signal and route it into all the other devices. So it means we don't have to reconfigure everything if we're going to use campground Wi-Fi. As most of you will know, campground Wi-Fi is normally pretty bad and pretty poor for internet service. There are rare exceptions to that, but generally we don't use it. But if we have no cellular data and have Wi-Fi, at least we can use that for whatever connectivity it offers. The outside antennas make that a little bit better. We use a Synology router. This particular one uses what's called AC technology, which at the time was the latest. There are now some next generation routers coming out there. But the Max Mini modem connects into the router, and then the router distributes that signal everywhere around inside of the RV. It has 4 Wi-Fi antennas. It runs on both the 2.4 and the 5 gigahertz bands, so you get really good connectivity and relatively high speeds. And the 4 antennas help get more people connected and give you some diversity in that respect. There also are connections on this router for Ethernet capability. And I use this system in particular because while Wi-Fi works great for a lot of things, if you're editing video files or editing photography files even in detail, Wi-Fi is still relatively slow, and so while a lot of people will use hard drives, external hard drives perhaps connected directly to a computer. In our case, we hardwire between the router and the storage device and the computers, at least the computer which is doing the editing. And so we get high-speed connections to our data storage without having to have a bunch of local hard drives in use. And so that brings us to the storage device. This one is also by a company named Synology. The specific model is a DS1517 Plus. It has 5 slots in it that can take hard drives, and these days I believe you can get up to 10 terabyte hard drives that will fit into this thing. In our case, there are 5 4 terabyte drives, and they are connected in something called a RAID, which is a specific way to put hard drives together so the data is all redundant, and any one hard drive can fail and you do not lose any of your data due to a hard drive failure. In the 4 years I think we've had this particular system, we've had 1 hard drive fail, and we could replace it and it would rebuild the data array and never did lose any data. We also do a local backup and a cloud backup, but that's a topic for a different video at a different time. So this device is one that sits there. It is connected via Ethernet cable to the router, and so I have high-speed connectivity between all my data storage and the router. If it's available via Wi-Fi, like our TV set can come in, and we do store DVDs, the actual data stored on the network server, so our TV sets can access movies if we have them stored and that kind of thing, or videos from YouTube or whatever else that might be stored in our data storage. And the computer which I use for editing has direct access at gigabit speed, so that helps with the loading of rather large files. I don't have a lot of data storage, and I don't have extra devices that I have to keep track of and connect and disconnect based upon which project I'm working on. So now let's look at how this system all goes together, and we'll do it bit by bit and piece by piece. The main thing we're looking at is to get internet connectivity for uploading and downloading YouTube videos, for accessing all the things on the internet, as well as for email. So the core of this system for the outside standpoint is this PEPWave modem, as it's called, a modem being a modulator, demodulator, an old radio term. And so that's the way we're going to actually get our connection to the outside world. Primarily it's going to be LTE data on either Verizon or AT&T. It can also be local Wi-Fi from the campground that we can pipe into the system as well. The outside antenna is one of the things that makes this system a little bit better, because the inside antennas work, but an outside antenna will almost always give you better connectivity. And so we use a very sophisticated antenna. As I've mentioned, it has 5 different antennas inside of one housing. And so that gives us a really good signal coming into the modem, which is key to getting high data speeds. The modem itself has a built-in Wi-Fi system, but we use that as an input, not to broadcast Wi-Fi inside of the RV. We do that by bringing the signal into a device called a router, and it provides a firewall to the outside world, which helps give you some protection from malicious things that can happen. It broadcasts all of the network signals, being the Wi-Fi to the outside, and any device that wants to connect to it through the Wi-Fi, either the 2.4 band or the 5 gigahertz band. Either one can be accessed. And our families that travel with us, in particular my grandkids, hook into it quite often when we're camping together, and they can get access to the internet through our unlimited data plans. And a computer that I use is a Dell XPS 15 as my primary device for editing either photographs or video. And so that is connected to the router via a landline cable. In the event we're moving or not set up completely as we travel down the road, I can also connect by Wi-Fi, but I rarely do that when I'm trying to edit something, because of the data time it takes to do everything. The core to our storage system is the Synology NAS, network attached storage as it's called. And it has, in its configuration, it has about 14 terabytes of usable data in a redundant array, the way data is stored in that device. And so that makes the data much more secure. I didn't show it in the diagram, but I do run backups off of that every night to keep that data secure. In the case of my computer, because of doing a lot of editing, I like dual monitors. The laptop has a fairly small screen, so I have a larger 4K monitor, which I can also connect to the laptop and use that for doing the actual detail work on either videos or photographs. And I use a Canon Wi-Fi printer. It's an IP110 by number. It's a color printer, a little inkjet. And so I find it's easy to store and keep out of the way when I'm not using it, which is a lot of the time. And of course, in our system, we have a couple of laptops, and if people are visiting, we might have more than a couple of them around. But we can hook those laptops up, which would normally be by Wi-Fi. And of course, we have 2 or 3 or 4 tablets. I've lost track, and grandkids have tablets and other people that might come and visit. So they can also hook up to the system via Wi-Fi. And then, of course, a cell phone may have its own data plan, and both of our phones do have data plans, but we also have an ability for people to use Wi-Fi if they want to save on their native connections. I hope you found this information useful. It's not that you would duplicate this exact system, but maybe it'll give you some thoughts and some resources for where to go to how to build the system that fits your particular needs. Ours works for us, and yours will probably be somewhat different. In the meantime, thanks for joining us. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed already, we would appreciate it if you would subscribe to the channel. And have a great day as you join us driving on the highways and byways of America.